Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from a throwaway account from the relationship advice subreddit. And it says, I, female 28, found a child's shirt in the belongings of my fiancé. Male 33. I'm sorry if this is long and all over the place. I met my fiancé when we dated as kids in middle school. We reconnected about 2 years ago after living life separately and meshed so well that we decided to just take the jump. His family lives in Texas. We originally lived in Minnesota. With his mother not doing well, so we moved down here to be close. My fiancé has a 2-bedroom that he purchased when he first learned of his mother's condition. This was about a year ago. At first, after we realized we wanted things long term, he would fly back and forth every couple of weeks or so until I asked him to just stay with me. He had no intention of moving back and it was kind of a, you move here or we do long distance situation. He did not explicitly tell me that, but that is just what I gathered from our situation. After time of thinking, I quit my job and just moved to be with him. I've been here officially for 40 days. Just a bit of backstory. When looking for something in the garage last week, I found a pair of baby-sized Nike shoes. I asked him who they belonged to and he said he had no idea. I thought nothing of it at the time and just tossed them. 2 days ago when going through the hamper to do laundry, I found a small pink bluey t-shirt. Probably the size of a 5 or 6 year old. I immediately remembered the shoes and my mind started to race. I admit I assumed the worst. That he's hiding a kid from me, and blew up a bit, accused him of lying to me. I started to get emotional and things of that nature, and an argument ensued after I didn't believe him when he swore he had no idea where these things are from. He is an only child, so no nieces. The only family he really talks to here are his parents. He offered no explanation other than simply insisting he has no idea. I pretty much shut down after realizing we were getting nowhere and have spoken maybe 10 words to him since then. He's not pushing me to either. Feels like I am just here. Since yesterday, I am just filled with despair and regret about moving here, and I'm not even sure if I should be. I guess I'm just curious how I can go about this. The mere thought of apologizing for my blow up and trying to rectify things when he is secretly lying to me about something like that just makes my stomach churn. I don't at all hope or even want to believe that is the case. He has never given me any reason to feel like this, but it just doesn't make any sense to me. And of course, that is going to be massively unsettling to discover not one, but 2 pieces of clothing that are both child-sized, with no explanation whatsoever. I'm trying to think of possible different reasons that it might, and I'm really struggling. But it wouldn't be the first time that we've seen someone, hiding a child or a whole secret family, would it? I mean, I don't know how many videos I've done at this point, but we've seen a lot. Ms. Streger says, this is so weird. It requires a weird solution. You got nothing to compare his reaction to. With respect to your findings, I think you should get a child's dress from a thrift store and bundle it into his washing, then announce it as a new find and ask him what's going on. If his reaction is any different to his previous reactions, you've got your comparison and can decide from there. Please note I picked the girl item because I thought the other 2 items sounded like boy stuff. If he's equally nonchalant about it, then there's probably a sane reason somewhere. Opie says this is actually a good idea. I'd never think of that myself, lol, thank you. I may consider it at this point. Weekly Conversation says, as someone else pointed out, there's no way you dated in middle school when he's 5 years older than you. He would have been 17 or 18 and either in his senior year of high school or he graduated already. If this is real, the whole thing with the baby shoes and shirt makes me think he's hiding a kid. Opie says, we were 12 and 16 when we met. I shouldn't have said dated, but when you're 12, what else do you call it? We were neighbors and liked each other. It was never nefarious. Didn't even care to give those comments a response, honestly. I'm dealing with enough than to read I'm lying or my fiance preyed on me. Ray Collier says, you don't call it anything other than friends. A 16-year-old with any romantic interest in a 12-year-old is highly disturbing, especially in this scenario. I'm recently concerned that you don't see that. You have unexplained children's clothing in your house with a partner that has a history of interest in children. I know it's hard to think of your partner that way or yourself as a possible victim, but please think about yourself as a 16-year-old and whether you could have been sexually attracted to a 12-year-old. Hope you reply saying, I'm only not thinking of him that way because I know the real dynamic of how our relationship was, even if I'm not articulating it correctly online in the heat of the moment. I appreciate your insight though. Thank you. Batty says, girl, the worst case scenario is that he's a child predator. A hidden child would actually be way better than that. I have some questions about him, especially when you say you met in middle school, but he's 5 years older than you. So you're in middle school and he was in high school or what? He's already showed a preference for inappropriate relationships with minors in your own history. I think you need to start looking for more. Don't ignore those feelings of unease. Your gut is telling you something is wrong here, and you need to listen. Opie says you're completely right, and I do appreciate the insight. But I shouldn't have said dated when I was really just a girl with a crush. We met as neighbors and hung out often. You would likely perceive that as a relationship too as a 12-year-old girl. He didn't prey on me and our relationship wasn't sexual. Just two kids who were close. Guess I should have clarified all this. Editing to add. I was 12 and he was 16 when we met. His birthday was a few months after. He went to college the year after that, just for any further confusion. So Opie came in with an update 5 days later, and it says, not sure if I'm formatting this right, but just wanted to update for those still messaging me and commenting. This is probably anticlimactic for most of you, and in hindsight may be obvious, but please refrain from the negativity or I told you so's in the comments. Trust me, I've beaten myself up enough. Nothing can be said that I haven't thought to myself already. Someone here suggested I suggest getting cameras to him and gauge his reaction. Thank you so much if reading. I lost you in the sea of comments. He was very against it and jumped to the conclusion I was trying to catch him in something. A reaction that took me by surprise. After that I said fuck it and went through his phone. Another popular suggestion. Something neither of us had done since knowing each other, so I'd watched him put in the code from the corner of my eye, then went through it when he slept. Found a woman he's been calling and answering calls from while he's at work, maybe every other day. After my hand stopped shaking, I called from my phone and asked who she is. She asked me who I am, and I tell her I'm his fiancé. She tells me she's the mother of his kids and that he's a father of 2 boys and a girl, 10, 7, and 5 years old. That they met in college and have been on and off since then, but they are currently just co-parenting. An obvious lie. She then tells me she was told about me and he'd said I was pregnant and pretty much moved here at random against his will. That I was just a crazy one-night stand while we were on a break and he was just trying to co-parent. Basically playing this role of the heroic father to a fake baby trying to do right. When in reality, he's just a psychotic piece of shit. She seemed more relieved I wasn't pregnant than anything, but that is her issue. I told her about the shirt and she had said her kids spent the weekend. Another lie because no one has even been here since I've moved in. Didn't even seem to care he hid his own children from a woman he was going to marry. Anyway, he doesn't know, but I'm leaving. I'm using my little savings to get home instead of motel until I'm on my feet again. Thankfully, when I left, my boss said I was always welcome back. My flight is in 2 days. Also probably shouldn't have, but I broke his phone too and said I accidentally spilled water on it because about an hour after I called the girl, she texted him, called me, and I panicked. I assume she plans to tell him that I know, even though I asked her not to. It hurts and I've been evaluating everything thus far. Every conversation we've had, every little piece that hasn't added up. One thing I will say, although he never begged me to move or anything, we did have numerous conversations about the possibility, and a month before I moved here, he acted so excited and even sent me a bunch of job listings in the area. I definitely did not stalk him at all, but he clearly wants his baby mama if he's concocted this whole psycho fairy tale to sell her, so I'm honestly and truly done. Just trying to remain calm and sane until I'm up and out of his life for good. This whole time he hasn't even asked why I'm not talking to him either. Thankfully, because I wouldn't know what to say. And I know he's a garbage parasite, but that just hurts me even more. It's like I really was just nothing this whole time. Uprooted my whole life, literally for nothing more than a singular month of playing wife. Now to pick up the pieces and repair them all on my own. Well, his life stays unchanged and he's happy with his family. So yeah, this is probably more of an event, but at least you guys can stop wondering. This all happened within the last 48 hours, so I'm still collecting myself emotionally. I do appreciate all the support and advice, and to any women currently feeling like something isn't adding up, please trust your gut the first time. Ignoring it will never work out in favor of the relationship. Commenter says to OP, "Whoa OP, I'm so sorry. This is a lot." So they are not together as he lives separately. She says they're on a break, but he owns another property that he's living in currently. How far away do his kids live? She sounds like she's not entirely truthful as well. Wonder how long he thought he could go on hiding them from you now that you are living together. OP says thanks a lot. Yes, I get the feeling she's lying as well, but that is their prerogative. Any woman okay with her kid's dad living a double life to this extent is probably crazy too. They deserve each other. Commenter replies saying, "But are they actually together anymore? They could really be broken up and she can't let go. But then it sounds like a super toxic relationship, and I doubt you want to be anywhere near that dumpster fire. I guess it doesn't really matter as he lied to you about having 3 kids. OP says, "Honestly, I did consider this as a possibility, but I feel like it was just my mind trying to justify things so I stay. My thoughts and emotions have been all over the place, but I'm sure the situation will just get worse over time." Another commenter says she might be lying about everything. He's not innocent, however, as he knows precisely what's going on and is hiding it and lying. OP says, "Yeah, all I really care about is him hiding 3 kids from me. I can see her lying about the co-parenting and stuff, but I wouldn't want to be with him regardless. Could never trust him again." Lucy Loves Apple says, "I'd leave him ASAP. Even if she's lying, he's lying more. Just leave a note and go back home." OP says, "Yes, both are liars for sure. Unfortunately, had to wait for the flight most convenient for me. 2 days from now, but no notes will be left. Slowly gathering my items and will be gone before he's off work." And there was a whole bunch of comments after this, obviously saying sorry that OP's going through this. A lot of people looking at that initial age gap when they was younger, her being 12 and him 16, 17 years old at the time, and the maturity gap between those two. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Now our next story comes from Don't Look At Me Please, who says, "Dad wants to do a memorial for my sister at my wedding, but I'd rather she wasn't mentioned." I know the title sounds bad. I was hoping people might be able to assess this objectively and give suggestions, especially if they've been at weddings with memorials before. Unfortunately for me, this is a trickier situation than I'd like because of who my sister was. I'm changing small details to make it harder to identify the situation if anyone I know happens to across it. My younger sister passed away last year. She was an adult, but young, and it was sudden. I don't want to go into too much detail, but she had made some bad choices that contributed to her short life. She was also not well mentally. She had an extremely tumultuous relationship with my mum and I. Some ups, but mostly very nasty downs, especially during years when we tried to save her from herself. On the other hand, my dad was often idealized by her and they had a better relationship. My fiancé did not have a good relationship with her either. Her final years and death were traumatic for our whole family. It's especially impacted my dad. Since she passed, my dad has made a point of eulogizing her at every family event. We've had to remember her and make sure she was present. It's always been difficult for both mum and I because I have a lot of intense, difficult emotions surrounding her and her passing. I always cry for hours and I end up feeling downhearted and out of sorts for days after each one of these surprise memorial events. My dad will be the officiant at our wedding. It's very soon. I only recently learned that he plans to memorialize her during the ceremony and in his toast. I really don't want him to do this, but he's extremely resistant because he doesn't want to pretend like she was never here. I will admit that it is childish for me to feel bitter about someone who is no longer here. But growing up, I had a lot of events hijacked by her causing some incident, and now it feels like it's happening again, even when she's passed. If we had a better relationship, I might have been more okay with taking a moment to remember her. but my dad tends to lionize her and has a selective memory when he's forgotten everything bad. He was shocked when I said I wasn't comfortable with her being mentioned in a speech. Outside of my own baggage, my fiancé certainly doesn't want her mentioned. This is not just a my side of the family event like the previous memorials. I also fear it will bring what's supposed to be a happy time and make the guests sad or uncomfortable. I want to try to compromise with him by having my mum. He and I will wear yellow jewelry in discreet places to remember her. Yellow was her favorite color. But I'm not sure if he'd be okay with this because it's too secret. Long story short, how can I let my dad feel like we're honoring my sister's memory without upsetting my mum, my fiancé and myself too much to enjoy the day? I'm at a loss and it's hard for me to approach this objectively. Edit, I need to go to bed so I won't be replying further. But I wanted to thank the people who offered condolences and advice, and also those people who were rightfully saying, "Girl, what are you thinking?" When I said maybe I should just let him do it. I've gotten a lot of great ideas for other ways of remembering people, not just my sister, and ways to handle it if my dad tries anyway. I'm having a serious discussion with him tomorrow, and if I get any hint that he's going to ignore my fiancé and I's wishes, then we'll find another officiant. Wish I'd been smart enough to fully settle the issue months ago, instead of days from the wedding, but lesson learned about clear communication there. Thanks again. Absolutely not, because you're not being childish here at all. Your wedding is about you and your fiancé, and that's it. It sounds like your dad turning every sort of family gathering into a surprise memorial, where it's hurting other people around him. It just sounds like it's not about honoring memory, it's about he's grieving in his own way, but is damaging everyone else. I always say, grieve in your own way, as long as it doesn't hurt anyone else, etc., and it's in a healthy way. This doesn't sound like that. It sounds like he's grieving at the expense of everyone else in this situation. I thought the yellow jewelry was a wonderful idea and very thoughtful and was a good compromise. It's going to be interesting to see how this conversation goes. I went to my niece's wedding a couple of years back now, and it was in the same year that my dad, her granddad, was ill. And, it was really sad because she was really hoping he was going to make it to the wedding and he'd be able to attend. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. And she decided to have a memorial table set up at the entrance to the hall. Oh, tearing up a bit here. And it had both my mum and my dad's pictures on there as a little memorial table, a candle, and it just looked lovely, If she had chosen not to do that at the same time, I wouldn't have blamed her at all. Like I said at the very beginning, this would have been her day, and it's about what makes her happy. And she had an absolutely fantastic relationship with her grandparents, my parents. Whereas in this situation as well, it sounds like it was pretty traumatic in some ways. I imagine there's a lot of complicated feelings around it, but Opie had some comments below and said, "My mother and I have both tried to talk about how we process grief differently, especially given how difficult our relationship with my sister were. That's part of why I wasn't expecting him to do it at this event, because he did it for my birthday and had to talk about how hard that was. Unfortunately, I guess I didn't make the impression that I thought I did. I don't want to ask him to step down as the officiant because I think that would really hurt him and cause more problems than just letting this happen. I just hope I can find some compromise that allows him to feel like he's not forgetting about his other daughter without making me too depressed to be a good wife to my fiancé or hostess to my guests. It really, really messes with me when I think about her death too much." Opie also says, regarding, I don't know why I'd expect this to be different. Ugh, tell me about it. I thought it was understood that this was not the time, but I was not clear enough and I should have been more clear. I'd like to do some kind of counselling. My excuse, I'm aware it's an excuse, is that I'm working a job where finding extra time is difficult. Just in the lead up to the wedding, I've been going to bed at 3 and waking up at 8 just to be sure I do everything I need to for work, plus wedding planning. Admittedly, I fall into the trap where I think I just need to find a good time, but the time has, of course, not magically presented itself. My dad tried grief counselling briefly, but he quit after a few sessions and refuses to try again. He thought it was too impersonal. My mum and I, but especially my mum, have become his therapist instead, which is not awesome for us for the reasons you could imagine. I think convincing himself to do family counselling would be difficult. If nothing else, this is a good reminder that I need more seriously to pursue counselling for myself, even if he doesn't want to try. Another commenter OP says is, unfortunately, it's a matter of days. That's why I haven't just said he shouldn't officiate. Finding someone else this soon would be a bear, and the emotional turmoil of saying he can't officiate, I think, would make things even worse than letting him do the memorial speeches for a variety of reasons. He's also shown he will just kind of do things to memorialize her, even when he's not in an official position. So I think that wouldn't really stop him if he were determined. That's why I'm hoping that I can find a compromise that's less obtrusive, so he doesn't feel guilty without literally calling everyone else's attention to my sister's death. Hope he also says I worry about that sort of thing. People thinking they're being proactive and thoughtful by mentioning the death and ways to mourn. It's just way more upsetting to you than if you could just let it be processed internally instead of in front of other people. I can compartmentalize, but I can't when people are talking to me about it. I have a terrible fear that I'd just have to steel myself for comments and condolences all night when I'm just trying to have a day where I'm not thinking about death for once. The special flower or colours is a nice idea, as well as including things relevant to my fiancé so it's not just for my sister. Again, my fiancé did not like her because of being protective of me, so the thought of dedicating the wedding to her is not sitting well. The more I've thought of it since leaving this comment and post, the more I realise it wouldn't be worth it to just let this happen. I'll need to discuss options for another officiant with my fiancé. Really hoping it won't come to that and my dad understands and agrees to not mention the death when I talk to him about it tomorrow morning. Especially if I frame it as, if you can't stop yourself, we can't have you officiate. But just letting him do it is not what would be best for everyone. Or really, anyone. Hope he also says a moment of silence is a good idea. Especially if it's about all those who couldn't be here, not just my sister. I know my fiancé has relatives who passed, long time ago, but the sadness lingers. Who would have been wanted here? I can ask my man of honor, dude best friend, to step in if things go off the rails. Even if my dad is not officiant and just doing a toast. He has a good relationship with my dad, so I trust him to do it sensitively. That's a really good idea too. Thank you. Regarding what you said about whether he wants us to be in pain. God, I hope not. I don't think so. I think he's trying everything he can to make the pain stop, but nothing can. He does other rituals that are more personal, which I'm happy he does if it helps him. It's just this can be really hard on us. The eulogies seem to help him with the guilt he feels about not being able to save her from herself. Something we all deal with in different ways, about moving on, about everything. It's a really bad situation. For a little bit, but only for a little. I think it's also I would like others to do this for me thing, which I get. Imagining people just celebrating and living life after you pass on it is existentially terrifying, but it is something that happens to everyone. And one more says I know we're missing those who have passed before too. Grandma on my fiance's side and great aunt and grandpa on mine. I think my fiancé will be touched by that, if it wouldn't be too hard to even take that moment. Make sure it's okay with my fiancé before offering it as an idea to my dad, of course. So OP comes in with an update and says, I received a number of requests for an update to this. So here we are. It's a good update, thankfully. I spoke with my dad the morning after making the post. I tried to emphasize that mentioning my sister passing in detail at the wedding would be very difficult emotionally for my mother and I, and would take away from my fiance's, now husband's day, and would probably make the guests uncomfortable or saddened. He said he was resistant at first because he's been afraid of my sister's memory fading away, but that ultimately he understood my concerns. He still wanted her present in some way that wouldn't take away from our day. I offered some suggestions that people gave for ways to have her memory present. We decided to have a seat reserved for past loved ones at the ceremony, and an empty seat with a name tag for her at the wedding party's table during the reception dinner. My dad was the officiant as originally planned, and he gave a beautiful speech at the ceremony and a heartfelt toast that was focused on the joy of the day instead of the sadness of the past. As far as I'm aware, everyone at the wedding had a wonderful time, and the only tears shed were happy ones. I know that there were multiple commenters who said my dad should be replaced as the officiant no matter what, but I'm glad I didn't do that. After the wedding was over, he gave me a big hug, crying because it meant so much to him, that we trusted him to do the ceremony and how happy it made him to be such a big part of the wedding. It meant a lot to my husband and I too. Moral of the story, sometimes it takes a few tries to get it right, but honestly, heartfelt communication between everyone involved won the day here. Thanks again to everyone who left advice, comfort, well wishes, and grandma hugs. I did not at all anticipate the interest in my post, but I'm grateful for everyone's comments, even if I ran out of time to reply to everyone. In the end, it was a perfect wedding, and I couldn't be happier with how it turned out. And I'm glad that the dad was able to see how painful it would have been for OP at the same time, and actually listen to his daughter in the end. And it turned out to be a lovely day by the sounds of it. Good for them all around, I think. And I really hope that going forward that they all find a way to process their grief, because I know how bloody difficult it can be. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being here. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.